by God, CM Punk went nuclear on those cats. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know CM Punk kind of went nuclear. He buried the AEW roster. He buried the Elite. He buried Colt Cabana again. Um,
Hangman Page. I think even a
Hangman
little
Page.
Kingston, Eddie Kingston barb was thrown in there or rehashed or something.
Well, he kind of buried Eddie Kingston in the ring. This one was more targeted at the Elite.
Well, there was
Um,
there was a line where Kingston was the second best Kingston. He said he laughed at how great of a line that was. It wasn't big or anything or nearly as scathing as the other guys, but it was enough to set Eddie off. I didn't know that.
well, yeah, that happened in the ring. That happened when he was building towards his um, Moxley match. But let's fill you in here.
Yep.
So CM Punk, he had his match at All Out,
Yeah.
the AEW pay-per-view, and he beat John Moxley for the AEW title, the reigning and defending undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. After they have a post show media scrum.
Yeah. Do they do that
And
often? Is that like a AEW thing?
yeah, they do it for all pay-per-views.
Oh, that's really stupid.
Um, I don't think they'll. It seems like that's probably going to come to an end soon,
It seems
based off
like
of what happened.
to me it just seems like a way for Tony Khan to just sit with the wrestlers and be one of them. Like why else? Because I mean, let's put this in perspective. It's a fake, it's a fake sport. So to have like a press conference after a fake sporting event, I don't know. It's weird.
Well, I'm okay with that part.
Yeah.
Like even WWE, they just did one for Clash at the Castle. Difference is, well, there's obviously big difference,
Sure.
but a small difference is all the wrestlers, they stayed in character when they were being interviewed. So everything they said was like in
Yeah.
character.
Yeah. That's another
Um,
thing because Punk basically said that like he did the job, quote unquote, for Moxley. You should appreciate the same thing, or it's like you just fucking admitted that this is fake.
so the medium scrum thing, it's there, but I kind of like it because it gives you like insight. Not necessarily to the wrestlers. They're there, so that's good. But I like it more so like, what was your thought process behind making this decision, or is this person coming back, or is this person going to be out for weeks, or you get that kind of information immediately following the show.
But it's also wrestling, so it all could be bullshit.
It could be.
So I mean, it's just I don't know. That's just weird to me. And when WWE did it, at least from the times that I've seen it, it's always like the main event guys. It's not every motherfucker that just gets to sit and tell their tale.
They'll do the champions, which brought CM Punk, and he
Mm.
started out the scrum,
He
and
did.
by God, he goes nuclear.
He
By
did.
God, he goes nuclear.
Okay.
Hold on, let me get it for the clip.
Yeah, it was out of nowhere. He just sat and like asked a confrontational lead up question to the reporter, and then yeah, shat on Colt Cabana, who I guess was his friend. He right after he walked out of WWE, he appeared on his Art of Wrestling podcast. Uh, Talked about his experience, uh, his being Punk's experience uh, at WWE. Talked about the Summer of Punk and all the events that led up to his walking out. Well, Punk said some shit he probably shouldn't have said publicly on a podcast. WWE took him to court. Um, then that morphed into Colt Cabana and Punk suing each other because I guess the implication was that Punk was going to pay for Colt Cabana's legal fees, but that didn't happen, and they had a dispute, and um, Last thing I heard is they settled out. That's the last thing you hear about that. And then um,
Hmm.
I guess reports surfaced that some believe that Punk was the responsible for Colt Cabana, who was with AEW at the time, going to ROH. Did I have that right
Right.
so far?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Did I leave anything out?
No, that's the story so far.
Okay. So
Um, I guess the only other thing was, um, and we already talked about it, the Hangman Page
yeah.
saying it or kind of mentioning it during the promo and Punk getting
Right.
pissed off at that.
Well,
This is
I
all
guess
leads to a.
Hangman
Mhm.
Page is really close with the Young Bucks. This is all fucking stupid. Hangman Page is really close with the Young Bucks, who are in turn really close with Colt Cabana still. So while CM Punk is no longer friends with Colt Cabana is still friends with the Young Bucks, and I guess they may or may not have been suggesting that Punk is the reason why Colt Cabana is in ROH now. And
Right.
Hangman allegedly went into business for himself with. I listened to the promo, and I guess if you were grasping at straws, it was a personal attack, but to me it just sounded like a generic promo.
What most would say is it's because Hangman didn't like deliver it well enough
Yeah,
for it
it
to
was a little
come off
awkward.
how it was supposed to.
Yeah,
Um,
he's not the best talker.
yeah. So
But I mean, it wasn't
that's
like I don't know, he didn't motherfuck his mom or like he didn't say anything scathing. He didn't call him a dumb empty-headed fuck. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Or he didn't
So
call him a coward or challenge his character to a fight when he knew he wasn't in the back. Punk did that.
yeah. So we get to his all out scrum. Punk sits down. He immediately points out like one of the journalists,
Yeah.
Nick. I forgot his name. Nick something. Doesn't
Hauserman.
matter. Yeah, and he looks at him and he says, "Do you fancy yourself a journalist?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Do you do do you do stand up comedy anymore?" And Nick says he did, or no, he doesn't do it anymore, but he used to. And he was like, well, "When you did it, who'd you used to do stand up with?" And he was like, "Scott Colton, who's Colt Cabana."
Right.
And he said, "Would you consider yourself a friend of Colt Cabana, of Scott Colton?" Um, and then this just starts. This is
Yeah.
this so that's the start of the rant, right?
Right. It
So
was a great
never was
rant.
he asked a question.
That was a classic just chef's kiss of a CM Punk rant.
Yeah, so never was he asked a question. He
No.
immediately points the guy out, and he's like, "Aren't you friends with him?" And the guy's like, "Well, I mean, we haven't really talked."
Right.
And
Well, he even says like
he's
you blew up my spot.
yeah. So this sends Punk off, and he
I got some quotes. Now it's 2022. I haven't been friends with him since at least 2014, late 2013. And the fact that I have to sit up here because we have irresponsible people who call themselves EVPs and couldn't fucking manage a target and they spread lies and bullshit and put into a media that I got ever or somebody fired that I have fuck all to do with him. Want nothing to do with him. Do not care where he works, where he doesn't work, where he eats, where he sleeps. And the fact that I have to get up here and do this in 2022 is fucking embarrassing. And if y'all are at fault, fuck you. And if you're not, I apologize. And then he turned his attention to Adam Page, who he called an empty-headed fucking dumb fuck who went out on national television to fucking go into business for himself, referring to the promo.
What did I ever do to have some
Some empty-headed
empty-headed
fuck. Yeah, yeah,
fucking
yeah.
dumb fuck go out and go into business for himself? I was just talking about Adam Hangman Page. And he's like, "What did I do?" And he's talking to Dave. So
Meltzer.
yeah, Dave Meltzer. I almost missed that part. That's pretty important. He's talking to Dave Meltzer. So number one, we're talking about a media scrum, and
Yeah.
these are just all like, so it's a media scrum. They're supposed to be professionals here, and they're really just like content creators that are here.
Yeah.
Like,
It's kind of funny. It's
yeah,
that's why it's so funny to have a fucking media because it's all phony. Like everybody's just reporting on phony shit that just didn't happen. It's just weird.
yeah. Now to their defense, um, it is AEW. It's not like WWE, so
Yeah.
you're not going to be like getting Sports Illustrated there for your media scrum. So you got to take what you get if you're going to do it.
Well,
So, um, that they can't really help that part. That's number one. So
mhm.
number two, and this was all like a shoot. This was not
Oh
planned.
yeah, yeah. Well, no, no,
Um,
no. Dave Meltzer actually reported that Punk had likely been planning that for quite a while. Like he said, a source of his said that when Punk returned from his foot injury a couple weeks ago, that he told him that the press conference after All Out was going to be interesting. So
well, yeah, they said that Punk planned this,
yeah.
but it wasn't like. Let me rephrase it. It's not storyline, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
you would think that's what it is. It's like
Well, I mean,
leading to some big story,
there's
which
still
it could
like
still.
yeah, there's still rumblings of that, but by all accounts, that I mean, even Dave Meltzer saying that no, this is real. It's not a storyline, which I can
Yeah,
see. I can kind of, like if it's a storyline, AEW is just going to be a joke because this doesn't. Who wants to see the fucking Young Bucks being a fucking major storyline? Nobody. Like your
I,
payoff is a Young Bucks match for all this? No.
you know, and it was funny. As I thought it was a storyline because people started. Here we go again. I don't want to say it again, but I have to say it. People started saying what I was saying weeks ago. This is the NWO level storyline if they can turn it into a storyline.
Yeah.
Because what was everybody talking about all week? They were talking about this implosion by CM Punk.
Right.
They weren't
Which
talking
we didn't
about
even get to the
Clash at the
implosion part.
Castle. Yeah, they weren't talking about Clash at the. Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
They weren't talking about Clash at the Castle, 5-star match between Gunther and Sheamus. They weren't talking about NXT
MJF's return.
2.0. They weren't talking about MJF's return. They were just talking about this. And not only were they talking about this, every like you even had Sports Illustrated and the big
Yeah.
boys talking about this. So everybody was watching. So that if you could have turned it into a storyline, that was your NWO level storyline that you could have made.
But
But
instead, what they did was after Punk's press conference, he goes to the backstage area, and the elite being the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, they go and confront CM Punk because why wouldn't you, right? At least if you're
well, before he even left, oh, and I just wanted to point out real quick before we get to that part.
yep.
Um, two things. Number one, before he even left the stage, he said, "If anybody has a problem with me,
Right, right.
come
I'm
up,
sorry.
come
Right.
up to me and let's go." Like, so he's saying, if you got a problem with it, let's fight over it.
See,
Foreshadowing.
I didn't
Number
take that
two,
as a fight like request. I don't know. I didn't take that as a fight challenge.
well, I took it as come confront me about it,
I did,
which could,
yeah. There's no mistaking
like,
that. Absolutely. But as far as like
which
actually getting
if you're
physical,
wrestlers.
yeah. I just felt like let's go as in let's move on. But, potato, potato. Sorry, what was the second thing?
The second thing is during this whole thing where Punk is like talking about you have these EVPs who couldn't manage a target,
Right.
the empty-headed dumb fuck Adam Hangman Page, so he's
Yep.
burying the roster. The whole time, Tony Khan is sitting right next to him.
Yep. He's nodding his
So,
head in some spots and laughing, and like in no way, shape, or form does he try to like take control of the situation.
well, he tried a little bit, but
Mm,
Punk was basically saying, "Shut up."
yeah.
Like, and you can just like look at his face and like just see his like, oh shit, I can't believe he said that. Like, if you look at his mannerisms, he's like, oh no, and you can just tell he's like, when is this gonna end?
Yeah. Which I
Now,
mean, he's the
at that point,
he's the
yes,
owner of the company, though. Can you imagine like Vince McMahon allowing something like that to go on that he doesn't want to?
never.
Right.
That would never happen. That person would be fired probably before the conference was over. Um, and yeah, so you're the boss. You need to, I don't know, grow a pair, for lack of the better term.
Well, he should have nipped this in the
And
bud when Punk did that retaliation. Like, okay, at the first like whiff of tension when Page did that first initial promo that set Punk off. I mean, if that was an issue, then Tony should have nipped it in the bud then. And instead, he was too busy being everybody's buddy, and he let this shit fester.
now, who does it look like? With Tony Khan sitting right next to the guy who's blowing up the company.
Mm-hmm.
Whose side does it look like he's on?
Oh,
He's not
absolutely.
siding with the Young Bucks. He's like pretty much egging CM Punk on, letting him go. Um,
Well, Tony Khan is on record as saying that CM Punk's basically the savior. As soon as CM Punk came into the AEW, like everybody else was second fiddle, which I think is
yeah,
a
and
mistake
it's
because Punk's been injured his entire time almost.
so he does the press conference. He says, if you have a problem with me, come come up to me.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, as you can imagine, the elite they they decided that they would go confront him about it. Now, the story's kind of mixed here because it's definitely a he said she said.
Of course.
Um, on one side, which is Punk and Steele's Ace Steel, who we haven't even got to yet, but Ace Steel is a new character who's going to be important in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, on their side, they're saying that um, the elite kicked in the door,
Yeah. And they thought it was like
and
a 3-on-1 situation,
yeah, so they felt
even though Ace
threatened.
Steel was there, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, they felt threatened, and it kind of put them in a fight or flight situation, which turned into a fight.
Which right off the bat I
Um,
don't believe, because would you be threatened by the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega? Seriously. What are they got to do? Lisp you to death? They knocked down the door because he didn't answer because Punk was wiped out from his match, and the emotional scrum.
yeah, so according to the Punk side, he's sitting in his locker room
Crying
being emotional, reading the Bible, crying,
with a
and then they
blanket
kicked the
over his
door
shoulder
in.
sipping cocoa.
Yeah, and they kicked the door in, and I was like, "What's up, bitch?" What I'm getting to is there's a backstage altercation,
Yeah.
um, and then on the Bucks side, they they didn't kick the door in; they were let in, and all hell breaks loose when they get in.
Mm-hmm.
So um, Punk says one of them threw the first punch. They say Punk threw the first punch, but we get to a point where there's punches thrown.
But they're both consistent in the fact that Kenny Omega didn't do shit except
Yeah,
getting bit.
Kenny Omega's over here worried about his video
Punk's
games or whatever he's worried about.
Well, he was worried
And
about in their account. He was worried about getting Punk's dog to safety,
yes,
which
that's the next that's the next part. So Kenny Omega, who's a part of all this. So we have a punch. So we don't know what started it, but we know for sure that Nick Jackson has a black eye because he got punched.
yeah,
We know
Matt
that's a
Jackson
fact.
has a black eye because he got a chair thrown. He got a
Yeah, hold on,
chair.
we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. And then so and then we know for both sides agree, we know that Kenny Omega he was getting um, CM Punk's dog Larry to safety.
Well, Punk didn't
Okay.
confirm that part. They all they confirmed was he was initially calm throughout the whole thing. I can just see him like in a standing on a table, like there's a mouse in the room.
Like, stop it, guys!
Stop
I don't know why
it!
he has. I don't know
Stop it
why
now, guys.
has a lisp.
Because he has a lisp.
So, in CM Punk's corner is this wrecking ball, crazy psycho pit bull named Ace Steel,
Who he has to be, right?
who, who this guy, from all accounts, is just fucked shit up. Like, so from the reports, this guy he threw a chair at Matt Jackson, hit him in the face, gave him a black eye.
He turned
he bit he bit Kenny Omega and pulled his hair.
So he's that guy in the fight that like everybody's like having a gentlemanly fist fight, and he just turns everything up to 11.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Busts
definitely
out a hammer.
who who bites in a fight.
Well, I see. I was wondering that too. Um, the there was a report that said that Ace was under the impression that he was being cross-faced by Kenny Omega, so he bit him.
Oh,
One version of the story is that Omega was trying to break things up at the time. Steel was dealing with Nick when Omega came up from behind him to pull him off, and Steel believed that Omega was trying to cross-face him. Other accounts
okay.
noted
So
Steel
then
was trying.
so what I'm picturing is he just like jumps on his back and just starts gnawing away.
Well, see that's that's what I pictured too, because the earlier report said that he was just concerned for his wife. So I imagine them fighting and his wife just like getting incidentally brushed, and then Ace Steel just throwing cheers and just jumping on people and biting their necks and shit. Like, that's my
Yeah.
wife.
Like, hold on, baby, I got this.
Yeah, he went all Will Smith.
Yeah, so it seems like it wouldn't have been such a bad thing, the altercation, if he weren't there. So we have the altercation.
Which is currently undergoing a third-party investigation.
Yeah.
Because it's
So
at this.
again, I think it doesn't even get to that level if he doesn't go in there doing the shit he's doing.
Yeah, I think once you start throwing chairs, I think that's when you need to stop and reassess things.
Like, yeah, that's when even Punk should be like, "Whoa, chill, bro."
Yeah. Well, apparently there was a report that he got hurt, but then they said he got injured during the match. So either way, he's going to be out for a while. In fact,
Yeah.
he's
So
going to be out for so long they um, were going to strip him of his title.
well, So we enter into Dynamite. So that fight happens on Sunday. We enter into Dynamite. Everybody, of course, is now looking to see what Tony Khan is going to do as a response. Uh,
And boy, was
Tony
everybody
Khan,
disappointed.
Tony Khan starts the show. He says, um, the Bucks and Omega are stripped of their titles. By the way, they just won them Sunday.
Yeah.
CM Punk, who
Well,
now won the title back
now
from,
keep in mind he didn't mention them by name. He just said that the titles have been stripped.
yeah, the titles were stripped from
So
Omega and the Bucks because
they're
they were
getting
the
the
trios
Benoit
champion.
treatment,
And the AEW World title, it got stripped too. Also, if you had an eagle eye, you would have noticed that they were also removed from the graphics at the beginning of the show.
which I would have never noticed
So,
ever.
um, and then reports have come out that they've all been suspended. Um, it doesn't say how long. Also, you have Brandon Cutler suspended, Michael Nakazawa suspended, Christopher Daniels. You don't you didn't have anything with them during the fight, so you can imagine it sounded like they were just the people trying to break it up, maybe, and then
Yeah,
they got suspended for trying to break it up.
basically what happened is they were trying to break it up, but Tony Khan decided to suspend everybody involved in the fight.
Yeah. Um. Now I heard something about MJF possibly being involved too.
He was
Um.
him and a another executive. They were neutral witnesses. So because there's
So
so many
he.
people involved, and because it's all the he says she said bullshit, they're interviewing anybody that was in the area, and that just so happens to be people that weren't involved. And one of those people that weren't involved was MJF.
Okay. So he's just an eyewitness.
Right.
So yes, we have this big clusterfuck. Um. This the internet. Oh well, as you said. So we have the big clusterfuck. Punk gets stripped of the title. Bucks and the Elite get stripped of the title. Punk also noted, or also coming out of all this, and not because of the fight, he actually got hurt during the wrestling match. He,
Well, see that there's
believably, he tore his.
it seems to be like
Uh
50-50 on that. Like some reports are saying it was during the fight, some are saying it was during the match. Like, did you get anything concrete for that?
no,
Okay.
I didn't. But the consensus of it all is Punk is hurt again. He's going to be out 8 to 9 months with a, I think it's a torn tricep or something like that. Doesn't
It
matter. He
was
needs surgery.
it was either a torn pec or
Um,
a torn triceps.
and on top of that, he's suspended.
Yes.
Now, I want to know, because what it doesn't say, if it was the NFL, you get suspended when you're hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You have to serve that suspension after you're hurt.
Well,
So,
first of all, he's everybody involved is suspended until the investigation is concluded. So they're not working until they figure out what's going on. Once they figure out what's going on, then the real punishment will happen.
yes. And if you ask people on the internet, because, the internet's a thing,
Right.
they want CM Punk gone from the company. They want him fired.
Well, they might get their, especially if Ace Steel leaves, Punk might just leave in solidarity. Um,
I mean, it's hard to see, and you even have people within the company quoting like saying, "I don't know how Punk's not fired after
right.
this." Um,
Well,
there's
he
no
started
name
it.
put to that, of course, but
Like all
um,
this started because he opened his mouth and wanted to air dirty laundry. Like, yeah, you can make a case that Adam Page may have thrown a barb out when they had their feud, but at least that was in the context of an angle, and there was going to be a payoff because they were going to have a fucking match. It wasn't some shit where he
Right.
just randomly called him out when there was nothing planned. Um, and maybe the Young Bucks could have said something different if they were interviewed and they said something out of school. But keep in mind that Colt is their friend, and they were sticking up with for their friend. I mean, I like to think that my friends would stick up for me.
Right. And to think all of this happened because of Colt Cabana.
Jesus